think that's mainly it. Do you remember anything else?
Pool project's been
Sam's
completed.
got a question.
When you're done, before you move on from buildings and grounds, I have a question.
Okay. So I think the pool is, I think it's got
Pool's
water in
complete.
it, so
Yeah.
that's done. It did come in a little bit higher. And we're looking at the pool levy over 2 or 3 years to spread out the levy impact. What was the total off the top of your head?
247.
247. And I think we had anticipated 170 something.
Yes.
So it's quite a bit more to it than, but
And
it should be good
a lot
now.
of chip out of
Yeah.
the,
Yeah, we kind of lucked out, it sounds like, on that whole thing. I mean, that type of repair can go to, you can really go down a rabbit hole, so it was twice as expensive as and twice as long as what we had anticipated, which is what we had actually planned for, and so we hit our target. Okay, Sam had something.
So this is a process question as a newbie. So we're talking about a proposal to put a batting cage out by the baseball field. I think in terms of programmatic effort, it would be a significant improvement, would allow them to do some meaningful practice work, both during practice for not only batting, but for pitching practice during the week, as well as when games are there. You can do some pitching and kind of bullpen sort of work. If I want to put a proposal like that together, what's the process for bringing, is that something that's required to bring to you guys? If it's under a certain price limit, do I not need to bring it to you guys? How does that work?
I'd say if it's free, you probably wouldn't have to bring it to us.
So a little bit of background. Tony's been helpful on this in terms of kind of getting this ball rolling. We've talked to North Star Electric. They have poles that they're used poles that they'd be willing to give us for free, and would be willing to put them in the ground for free. And so the poles would be a permanent fixture, but we run cabling around those so that you could put the net up and take it down as the season comes and goes. So it would be a permanent change to the grounds, which is the other line I'm assuming we want to okay, and would require, the netting would be an expense that probably anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 in terms of the netting.
would that include the cabling too, or just the netting?
Probably just the netting. There's a couple of different packages I've looked at, but at this point, probably just the netting.
I would say bring it to us once you have the footprint. I mean, there should be tons of room out there,
Right.
but I think it would be the type of thing that we'd want to kind of sign off on and stuff with your location, that sort of thing.
And should that go through the Buildings and Grounds Committee first, or can I bring it to a working session?
I would, the first step, it would be to take it to the Buildings and Grounds Supervisor.
Okay.
And go through the proposal, have them go out and look at the location. Who knows, you never know what's underneath the ground and stuff like that,
for sure.
so I would work through him with Seth.
Yeah, and he's aware of this. I've kind of floated this by him. I haven't put anything formal in front of him. So.
I would make him an integral part of the process.
Yeah.
And then he would bring it to the Buildings and Grounds Committee with the proposal and stuff like that.
Okay, great.
Is it time sensitive? Just does it need to get done this fall, preferably, so it's ready to go in spring?
In terms of putting them in the ground, no. And actually, talking to Todd Higgins, it sounds like doing it in the winter is better, because then you run less risk of actually doing damage to the grounds around it. The time-sensitive piece is the poles themselves, because they are a first-come, first-serve, and he's got about 10 of them over there right now. So what he could do is say, just bring them over, drop them off on the grounds over there, and then we can figure it out from there. So I'll ask Seth.
Yeah, go through Seth, because there's lots of other things like just grounds up, keep mowing, and
of course.
like
And
that.
he knows about this, so this is, I've been in contact with him. I just wanted to ask the board process. Thank you.
Okay, anything else under committees? No? Okay, then we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, enrollment report. Elementary is, from the end of last year, we were at 260, we're now at 262. high school, we were at, end of the year at 207, we're now at 217, so we're plus 12 district-wide, and that's pre-K through 12. And I think we graduated a fairly small senior class and brought in a decent-sized kindergarten class. So enrollment-wise, we're sitting pretty good right now. In your pile of papers here is the most updated COVID data review. The CDC has a COVID data tracker, and it's a 7-day metric, and that's the first part of the information. Lake of the Woods, the cases they have located on there is at 32. It's a 4.4% positivity rate. Eligible vaccinated, we're at 55.6. And new hospitalizations, this I got from local public health. Locally, we've had 2, and there was an additional one that was sent out and has thus returned. And I'm not going to go through all the other neighboring counties, but you can see kind of where Roseau, Couchiching, and Beltrami are sitting in comparison. The MDH weekly case rate by county per 10,000 for the week of 9/5 through 9/11, we stayed at that 15 to 25. Roseau is steady. Couch is up to 50 plus, and Beltrami has stayed the same at 25. Between 25 and 50. Weekly case counts, September 12th to the 18th, and this is at the county level, there's 35. And September 19th through the 25th, this is last week, they're currently at 7. And as a lot of this data, some of it's lagging and gets adjusted over time and stuff, so. Because you'll see when I get down with some of our vaccination rates, we actually went backwards compared to previous weeks, and some of that is they might get vaccinated in Lake of Woods County, but they're actually a Couchiching County resident, so they clean that up every once in a while, so sometimes the numbers oscillate a little bit. Oh.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'll just finish up this report, and then if you want, I can stop, and then Seth can do his thing.
Sure.
So like I said, the week of September 12th through the 18th was tough county level as well as at the school. That's when we had, I think we ended up with 20 for that week when all the dust settled. Quite a few in the elementary. A lot of them were in similar households. And a certain percentage was also kids that were out already on quarantine, so there wasn't the exposure at school. But we did have a couple grade levels that had more than their share, so I think there was some transmission at the classroom level. This last week, the 20th through the 25th, through last Friday, we had 1 positive. And that was in a preschool age student who was already in quarantine due to close contact within a household. So I think the chart there, we tested 44, we had 43 negatives and 1 positive. Today we tested 12 and we had, excuse me, 1 positive. So that's looking a little more better than we did that after that second week of school. So, and then I have the vaccination rates updated, and you'll see some of the numbers are actually less, and like I said, that's because they clean up that data and clean that up. Pfizer booster shots will now be available, and it's for 65 and older, people with health issues, and essential workers, so that does include school staff. And so those who are 6 months out from their second shot of the Pfizer are eligible for the booster if they so choose. And I sent that information out to the staff so they can contact CHI, or they can let me know. If there's enough people, they'll come here and do a staff clinic before or after school to make it more convenient. And we did have quite a few that did the Moderna. That has not been approved yet. And then next Monday, I will meet with Public Health to update this information. Any questions on this? Okay, would you like me to stop and we'll let
Sure.
Seth talk about?
Sure, we'll skip around, that's fine.
Stop it.
I don't have my agenda with, I apologize for that, I'm not even sure what's on there. But I can kind of go through a few things. One, the update with the pool, all complete and working beautifully. And one of the other ones is coming Wednesday, we have a meeting with Peterson Sheet Metal. We're gonna be finishing up the control project that we had going, and gonna be dialing it in this coming week, and then figure out, we're gonna start on the chiller project, how to get going, what do we need to do this year to get it finished up for next spring. And then, well, at that, any questions on either one of those? Okay, I'm gonna kind of fly now.
Yeah, we talked about the pool a little bit before you got here, so the money was already discussed a little.
Yep, okay, and the last thing that I got, since we started, it's kind of become an issue and it's kind of bothering me a little bit. Since we started doing the drop-off on the north side, it's really become an issue with close calls, and especially with the daycares around there. There's some pictures, and I'm not sure if all of them are in your packet.
They are.
You can kind of see what's happening. You know, if you look at, right there at the picture, you can see there's cars parking right up and right next to the no parking signs. And that's one of the most congested areas for drop-off and pick-up right there. It's bottlenecking people in, they're trying to, ones that are picking up that are back in line are trying to get out, and the cars are being forced into that lane because of the parking situation there. When there is no parking, in some of the other ones you can see, some days they'll park on the grass, which is becoming an issue. It's killing that off, it's gonna become just a mess. And one of the other concerns you can see on the picture from the east side, looking around the corner, we now have a daycare there also. And parking around there, sometimes they get 2 or 3 wide. And that really becomes a problem coming around that corner, pushing them right into where people are getting their kids dropped off. And we kind of talked about it a little bit, you know.
Do we have enough parking with our existing parking lots to handle all these cars?
I do believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was about, average is probably 19, 20 vehicles tops.
Yeah.
You know, so we do have the space in the regular parking lot. We can get reserve so many spots for staff, have some reserved parking. But I really think we should not be parking along that service road and leave that open. Because we're trying to provide community service, and we have parents with young kids, and it's not just the kids jumping out of the car. You know, the parents have to pull over, get the little ones out of their car seat, and it's just too congested. And I think having that service road just be a drop-off point, if staff have equipment or stuff they want to drop off closer to the rooms, they can 5 minutes, park, drop it off, but then most of the day they need to park in the parking lot. And I'm sure that's going to make some people very happy, but I think just for the general safety of the kids and parents and
I have had quite a few complaints from people dropping their kids off, picking their kids up, you know, from the general public that are using it.
it's just
become a safety concern.
It's kind of flipped, because 2 years ago, it wasn't a drop-off point, it was parking, right? I mean,
Correct.
Yeah.
And so now it's a use change, really, and.
I don't think that was ever intended with the design of the school building to be parking area. It's not.
Frankly, it's a fire lane is what it is.
Yeah, you know, so I think that's just, you know, kind of like after school people parking in the bus lane. It's just been tradition and habit, and
That's what you do.
that's what we've done. And I think with the addition of those daycares and parents dropping off and picking up kids along that lane. I just think it's the wise thing to is just eliminate that parking and make it safer. And it gets to be a big mess in the winter when we start pushing snow and moving snow, so there'll be a little bit of inconvenience for some of the staff, but I think it's the right thing to do at this juncture. Any
Are we doing
questions?
a motion on that tonight?
No, I'm just
Actually, or
letting
is
you
it just
know,
going to
so when I, no.
We don't have to.
You might have
right?
some, you might
Okay.
have some complaints and some calls from some people that might not enjoy having to park in the student parking, so.
But
this
really,
is-
it's a reflection of the change of what's occurring now with
Yeah.
the daycares and everything.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah, because that was never,
More
yeah.
parents
Yep.
dropping their kids off.
And we had talked about having the buses use that, but it wasn't rated or something, Boyd, does that sound?
yeah, the road's not sufficient.
Yeah,
No, that'll bust it up pretty quickly.
yeah.
So this is just more informational, and administration will send out notice to staff, and we'll have a absolute date when you're expected not to park there, and hopefully we won't have any problems with compliance.
Okay. Anything else with you, Seth?
No.
No?
Any
Okay.
questions that you guys got on it? Sorry to run.
Okay.
Got some cleaning to do.
Yeah, you're looking double time, thank you. Thanks, Seth. Want to go back to my report?
Sure.
Okay.
And then we'll go on with Mary.
Or do you want?
Yep, or Mary, you have your hand raised, did you wanna,
I mean, if she's.
are you in a good spot for doing your,
I think I am. Oh, I didn't know my hand was up.
oh, I thought you raised it.
I'm not sure what I bumped with that. Okay, we're gonna ignore that. Ignore the hand raised. I'm in the car. Chuck's driving. We're good. I can talk.
Okay, well, if she has signal right now, maybe we should go
All right,
ahead.
well, do you wanna go with your report now while we have you connected?
If you're okay with that, that'd be great because it's kind of sketchy out here.
Okay.
So school year off is off to a fantastic start. Everybody's in the groove. We had an assembly last week with Ripple with Ben Rudrood, and that was for grades 5 through 8, and then a second one for grades 9 through 12. Really focused on positive choices, including others, and then challenge the students to invite others to join them, whether it's at recess outside or at lunch or whatever activities, because you can always be that kid that feels left out. It was very well received by the students and staff. I've been working on the 504 accommodations, getting them updated. So with high school students, I've been meeting with them individually because now that we're, a couple weeks into the school year, they know how their classes are, they know what some of their needs are, and then we're putting some tweaks on their accommodations if they're needed, some tweaking, and then getting those sent out to parents. Our social emotional learning follow-up workshop is this Thursday afternoon, and that'll be through Zoom with the same group that we had last year. And then big event, homecoming. It's scheduled for October 4th through 8th, with the exception of the dance is going to be this Friday because next Friday our volleyball team takes off for a tournament Friday morning, which is Friday, Saturday, the tournament down by St. Michael's. And it's really going to be pretty much back to how it was with Battle Royale. A few things will be scheduled differently because we have a varsity football game Thursday, October 7th at 1:30. And I've been very excited the whole city invited to go and attend the game. So game done or not, kids will be dismissed at usual time. We'll take them out there. We have talked about if the weather is bad next Thursday, we'd look at, if some students want to go, some don't. I would just have some staff stay inside and some go out to just supervise the students that would want to go. And interquest detection canine units are going to begin their visits in October. And right now we have 5 of them scheduled. Do you have any questions for me?
No.
Okay. Thanks, Mary.
All right. Thanks, Mary.
Okay,
Okay, you're welcome. Yep.
so staffing, the last thing, if we skip back up to you, is that the last thing on your report?
I got a couple more things, and one thing I don't want to forget is I asked Kirby Borgen, our new Dean of Students, if he could come tonight, and he's here. So you can put a face to a name. So, and he's been doing a good job, especially with my absence last week, so he got to a good start here. We just threw him into the deep end and watched him paddle like heck, so he's doing a good job. So, if you have any questions for Kirby, Kirby is a former student of mine. Well, I got a couple former students in here, but makes me feel really old. But it's cool. I like it. It's a good thing. So, couple things real quick. And I put it in your pile of papers, some changes with our safe learning plan, and this is something that we do about every 2 weeks. I did make some changes with masking mandate. Originally, if we put our tier at the high level, it was mandated masking. I did reword that, all students, teachers, staff, and visitors in the school buildings may be required to wear a mask indoor for a limited time by action of the school board. And I didn't want to get pigeonholed, because if we get to a point where we say it's high, I still think we probably need to discuss what specific steps we may need to take, and masking may or may not be one of those steps. So I wanted to word that so it's a little more in tune to what our reality is. Any questions on that? And then I did some updates with some of our close contact tracing with the addition of the Q test. We have currently 3 readers in action, so that we can do 3 tests at one time. For the first week and a half, we were just down to 1 reader, and it's about a 40-minute process per test. So with 3 of them running at once, we can get through more tests. And one of the things we're pushing as much as we can safely with the testing is to do it to reduce student quarantine time and days out of school. So I've kind of outlined how that would look with the 7, if we can do a 7-day is our preferred option. And this, you can read through it. The toughest one that we deal with is when it's a household that has a positive with young kids and they can't isolate in the household. Last year, you following the guidance, that could be 24 days of quarantine, and that's a big chunk of school days those kids would miss. So with the Q testing, we can shorten the days. The kids might have to come in, get tested. If they're negative after so many days, if it comes back negative, they can return to school, but we might do a follow-up several days later just to make sure they're not asymptomatic and that there's a delay in a positive reading. So our goal is to get the kids in as quickly as we can, and at the same time make sure that we don't have any asymptomatic people running around the building infecting others. And we want to try to kind of keep a cap on that. So that's outlined in red, and that's the only action tonight for the board with our, as far as this goes, would be to approve those changes, and then we would update that. And I think we're getting to a point where our updates might be fewer and fewer between our meetings. So any questions on any of this? Also in my report, I have a few staffing updates. We will be advertising for administrative assistant finance clerk, and that's a new position. I won't cry this week, I'll save it for the next one, but I'll save it for next time. But that is a position that we will be looking at, and so hopefully I'm planning, unless the board says not to, is we're going to get that posted probably tomorrow sometime. Also information, and this is board action tonight with the business manager change for Crystal. We're fortunate to keep her on site and to continue to work with her, but her employer will change with approval tonight. But I see a very seamless transition to that. School nurse, I'm recommending that we contract directly with Tiara Shaw for her nursing services. And you can see there's basically maybe a $6,000 increase in cost, but there's benefits to having her under our contract and maintaining her services to the district. I'm also asking that we can advertise, and we're working on exactly what the needs is, but kind of a COVID coordinator, assistant health right now. Tiara's getting the brunt of all the new testing. It's taken up a lot of time. Danny's been helping her quite a bit. I'm on the list as an assistant, but I don't do much, so I'm not much help. But I think we need to, with Danny moving on and some of the changes, we'd like to try to find maybe a 4-hour position to help with some of the clerical work with some of the COVID testing and what we have to report to MDH and MDE. And I know Daddy does some stuff with ordering and stuff, so we'll have a job description, but I think that COVID coordinator is a position that we should probably get to help the health office and stuff like that. And then also asking for an hourly position for a help desk support technician. And this is something else that's kind of COVID related. We've probably increased our technology 5-fold in the last year and a half. We've basically gone to a one-to-one device to students. And with that, there's a lot more demands with help desk and things. All the online teaching tools that teachers use and different software and stuff, it's gotten to be quite a demand on for one person to manage, so we'd like to put that position in. And we do have with the health office, the COVID coordinator, we do have a $40,000 grant that we have that would take some of that money that would help cover some salary costs and equipment for that. And also we could probably use some of our ESSER dollars this first year or two for the technician support, but that might be also something long-term that would fall under a capital projects levy that we've been talking about with the addition of all this technology and making remote learning more accessible for our students. My schedule's in there for this week. Board committee meetings are listed. Policy is October 5th at 4 o'clock. School forest is October 11th, and that's at 5, and then we'll follow right after that with the school board working session meeting at 6 o'clock. Is 6 o'clock an okay time for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. And then regular school board Monday, October 25th. We will be closing for negotiation strategies, but one of the things that we need to set is some of our MSEA, AFSCME, and Education Minnesota meeting dates for negotiations. I think that's all I have. Any questions for me?
So if you don't accept Danny's resignation, she can't leave, right?
I haven't thought of that one. Yeah, I'm kind of scared of her. I don't want to mess with her. No.
So the numbers you have for the school nurse are based on discussions with you and Tiara directly? I mean, how does that
Yes,
contract
and
get negotiated?
it's based on the current contract and rates that we have with CHI.
And I understand the logic of that, but she would be the person we're actually bargaining with. I mean, it is
Yep.
an individual. She'd be an
Yep.
AFSCME member.
No, she'd be an independent contractor.
So she would have to provide her own insurance then, right?
Well, that's something that we would negotiate. Yeah.
And as long as we're on that staffing, had a brief conversation, but we set right now with bus driver custodial staff? Is that something we're not pursuing at the moment?
No, we're gonna advertise for a 4-hour custodial position. You mean?
And co-opt it with a bus position?
I think,
As of now, I'm full.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's just gonna be a 4-hour custodial, that's all.
And then obviously it's like that card game where you put the wrong head on the wrong body, but you got a custodial position for 4 hours, you got a IT position, and you've got a 4-hour COVID relief person. You know, I mean, is that the possibility to get all three intertwined somehow, or?
if we can find.
The IT is a separate issue, I don't
If
know.
we can find a retired nurse
No, we're talking about
who is tech savvy and likes to,
it wants to work 80 hours a week. But you're talking about the home health coordinator position
Right.
and the custodial.
Now, would that person actually have to come into the building to do clerical work, or would that be something they could just do
well, that person,
home-based?
we can train the
testing
staff
too.
to actually do the testing, inputting the data. I think Danny probably has done some testing herself, so it'd be someone in the
On
building
site.
for up to 4 hours, doing the testing so that Tierra can do some of her other nursing duties as well. And it really depends on who's interested and what they're willing to do, and you know, so we're gonna have to be kind of flexible, but I think the starting point is just to advertise for that 4-hour position and see what.
And then throw other things at them.
Yeah.
And then you,
That would never happen.
back to the IT position, so you get a person in there, you pay for it with ESSER dollars for the first year and a half, and then there's a technology levy that we can
Yep.
throw on that.
Yep.
So hopefully continue on for the years to come.
Yep. And right now, I think we're looking at basically a full-time position for that, 8 hours, or 40 hours a week.
Yep.
And they
Oh,
would
you're
answer
here.
you,
There you go.
obviously, that would be a,
Yeah, I can for you.
Year-round?
but somebody who you would oversee their
Could be, yeah.
workload, or,
Yes, you'd be the primary contact for the help desk. So you can help service the students and teachers quicker.
okay?
And it would be year-round, summer hours too, correct?
Summer hours.
Is that the budget?
No.
That would be in those. You
We'd
would
have
take
to
it
levy
out
that.
after,
Well, yeah,
Yes.
and
like,
then you would put it in the other.
yeah, so then going forward, I mean, we would have to budget for it,
Right.
because we're not gonna always have these funds, but
So the ESSER dollars, we can spend that through 2023,
24, I think.
is it 24?
Yes.
So we could budget that way, but that's not a long-term solution.
Right,
So
right,
that's where that capital projects levy,
right.
or technology levy is what a lot of schools call it. Some of those dollars would go to support that position.
Craig's thinking. You look like you had a question. No?
So I don't believe there's an action item directing me to advertise. I'm just, is there any concerns with advertising that? We can make it an action item if you want to add it to the board agenda, or is there any opposition to,
For the IT one?
for any of these
For any of
positions?
them.
We can direct you as a working session board to go ahead and pursue those
Yeah.
employment potentials.
Yep, I mean, I can advertise, obviously, at the end, we would come with contracts and final dollar figures for you to actually approve the hire at some point.
Okay.
The business manager one, that's not,
That's an action item tonight.
Yep.
So you'll accept the resignation and then contract with SMS.
that's kind of separate.
Okay. Anything else?
It's probably enough. for
You've
one
got
day.
enough? And nobody has any other questions on any of those items? Kind of a lot, but I think we have a handle on it. Okay. Then we'll move on to the business office with Crystal.
Well, I guess they kind of briefly mentioned it under the committee thing.
Yeah.
So we just talked a lot about all the different funding sources for COVID. I did include, a COVID tree, a federal COVID funding tree, just kind of to give you guys an idea of how all of this works. So there's basically, you know, the three main pots of money, and then under those three, it breaks it all out into the different ESSER funds, gear funds, how you need to use it. So then we just went through, I had it written down. I don't know if you guys looked at the agenda at all in the finance committee folder, but I just have it broken down as far as what the finance code is, how much it is, which I just am realizing I did forget to put one on there, 174.
Is that the new?
It's 50,000.
The newest one?
No, that was the money we got from the county.
Oh.
So 174, that's another 50,000. But so basically we have spent 150, 151, 153, 154. So around 225,000 that we've received it has been spent. Jeff and I are gonna work on the ESSER 3 budget on Wednesday, which is through Friday. So that would be your 155, 160. But yeah, and wasn't a lot to report as far as the actual monthly budget report since it's only through August. Still working with audit. We started that last week with the actual field work. It seems to be going well so far. And then we just kind of talked about the payroll process and how that works, and then briefly discussed options for my office schedule. I think that's everything. Any questions?
No question. Tim, you look like you're thinking hard.
No, I'm just thinking about the options on the office schedule. I don't want to get into that now. I'm trusting you guys to work that out. I'd just be curious when you get it into it, you know, how that works.
Yep.
And it may, right away switch a little bit too until we figure out something that works well for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, adjust it as needed.
Yeah, and we talked that with some position changes, she might have to be in-house more in the
For
upcoming
training.
months for training and getting another person up to speed, so.
Cause it's not like because the contract says 20 hours that that's all I'm gonna do. It'll just be based upon the need. It's just that I am required for the contract to be here 20 hours.
We'll get 70 hours on.
Yeah. As long as we're talking that contract, there was a discussion in the packet about a 3-year commitment to SMS. Didn't I see that somewhere? How
it's
do
for
we,
3
if we
years.
go ahead, we're still discussing advertising this position out?
Yep. Usually they have like a 30 or a 60-day notice where either party can opt out of the contract. I believe is it 30 days for that one?
It would
or
be 60.
60, CHI is 90.
CHI is 90, but I think SMS was 60. I'll have to double check. But
Okay.
yeah,
So there's a
So
We did
process.
find somebody that fit the bill. We could
Yeah.
get out of that, all right.
Anything else then for Crystal? If not, we will move on to Activities Director and Community Ed.
Hi,
Hi.
how's it going?
Good.
Had a good fall so far. I'm definitely getting my feet wet in terms of how things work. And excited about some upcoming stuff. Sorry.
Is this the videotape this? And we posted it online.
Okay, great.
I have to remember to keep up speaking.
I'll sit up
Otherwise,
front.
people at home
Next
watch
time.
it and, how are they saying it again?
In the short term, some really exciting stuff is obviously homecoming is next week. As Mary alluded to, we did have to move the homecoming football game from Friday night to Thursday afternoon. So the new homecoming football game is at 1:30 p.m. on Thursday. while this seems like a bummer, it actually, I think, is gonna turn out pretty cool, in that Thursday is going to be kind of an all athletics day. So we'll have the pep fest in the morning, we'll have the whole school, weather permitting, go out to the football game at 1:30. Elementary, junior high, high school, and then and they'll be there at 1:30, they'll be there for about an hour, so at least for the first half, then they'll get excused and go back to get on the buses. And then we've got a junior high football game at 4, and then volleyball plays War Road, and so of course all junior high through varsity will have volleyball games that night. So a packed day of athletics, and excited that the school gets to get in on that as well. So, like I said, not an ideal situation. Our ref crew ended up having to back out based on some COVID issues for that Friday night game, so we were able to move it. So yeah, I'm excited to be a part of that. We have some other fun ideas brewing for next week. One of which is featuring the cross country team, because they don't get a home game. Often, I think, don't get as much light or press time on a week like next week. So try to feature them in a meaningful way. In looking towards the future, getting things set for the winter schedule, we are still looking for a basketball coach. I've got some leads, but still looking for a basketball coach. So I'll look around the room. If anyone knows anyone who would be interested, I do have some leads on some kind of mentor or support for someone. So if we get somebody who's young and who has never done it before, I have some possibility of getting like an assistant coach who would be willing to mentor somebody. So I'm still working on that, and I think that's our kind of most pressing hire as of this point. So, any questions? And that's a lot of athletics. Community ed is also happening. That stuff tends to feel a little less pressing in the moment than the AD stuff. So I found that a lot of my time has been more focused on the athletic stuff and trying to figure out a better balance of how to be able to pull community ed kind of up to the forefront more. So things on that front, I've talked to Buck Nordloff about archery for this winter, and of course then the other standards in terms of basketball and other activities that will happen this winter. We are looking to do a community ed website that will allow people to register online. That's been done a little bit in the past through our school to varying levels of success. I'm talking to Crystal about ways to make that as seamless as possible in terms of the finance side. So you might see some changes here in the next couple months with regards to that. So yeah, I think that's about it. Any other? Oh, the other thing, I don't know, should we mention this, Crystal, in terms of the pool stuff, or should we wait on that?
We can.
Yeah, good conversations between Crystal and I in terms of how we manage the community ed budget. Not always a thing that's balanced on a regular basis in terms of a budget, so thinking about how do we structure it differently so that we can see so the pool tends to not make as much money as it pays out, which is fine. That's a board decision in terms of a community service, and I'm a fan of that. But are there ways we can display that community ed budget so you're seeing more specifically where are we falling short and how are we potentially making up those gains in other places? So
basically we just talked about doing like an assigned fund balance, kind of like we have with the school forest. So it's separated out of there, so you can, you can see a community ed itself. It's, even though that's a piece of it,
right,
it's a big chunk of money. So just to kind of separate those out.
Yeah, it's a big chunk of money. It's also a different chunk of money. It's much more maintenance and capital heavy than the programming side of community ed. So by creating a separate line item or what's the term?
A different fund balance.
Fund balance. Not fun. Fund balance. You get a clearer picture of what that account is, how that's breaking down over the course of time. So I think good things in terms of figuring out what's happening in that accounting.
You just don't like seeing the red numbers in the parentheses.
Well, she and I were talking about what the potential deficit will be for community ed, and my eyes got really big, and then we talked about it more, and they got less big. But what's the long-term, what's the long-term goals in terms of bringing that out of a deficit on a regular basis without having to dip into the general fund? And also, what is the actual breakdown of why we're in a deficit on a regular basis? And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of the pool. I think we should continue making it a community service, or a service for our community, but it is a different type of funding that you give to that between maintenance, and specifically in maintenance and kind of capital projects like you just invested in with the redo of the pool. So it's different than your community ed programming money that you're spending.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Sam? Then we will move on to, hopefully I'm not skipping anybody, Brad. Transportation.
Oh, yeah.
Many fun things going on in Sam. Fun bus, Brad, fun bus. We'll try to keep up with her on that. I do know that I've talked to a few people from the Williams area about, and I believe I put on an agenda for an activity bus possibly after school, just kind of getting the ball rolling on that as far as what we think and what we're willing to do, and that sort of thing, as far as maybe running to Williams once a night or maybe twice a night if we get too many kids. I know we've had it in the past. I wasn't here, but I mean, I don't know of that. Just from talking to people that I've lived here a long time, that there was an activity bus, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago maybe, something along that lines. And then I guess there is other smaller communities, like Black Duck has 5, I guess, buses that run activities to different communities, stuff like that.
I think we ran 3 back in the day. For sure there
When
was 2. There was a
I
lake
feel like
road
when
one
I was in
and-
high school, which is quite some time ago, that it ran, like, I don't know if it alternated nightly or weekly. It went
one
to
way.
Williams, around the resort area and back, and then it reversed. Yeah.
Tony knows his stuff.
Some days you'd be home earlier than others, which is nice to alternate it, cause
Yeah.
I don't know how we get it going, or if we wanna do like Sam and I talked about doing a survey to see who would be interested in it, and I talked to, Tony, we're kinda just spitballing some ideas, and I said, Williams has a use, I don't, what it's exactly called, but they're,
the Williams Youth
Yeah.
Recreation Association.
exactly, yes. I have a hoodie that they gave me, that I should've looked at before I came here to get the right name, but anyways, they're willing to throw some money towards it to get, which I thought was kinda an idea that Tony and I were kinda in. I was thinking maybe going up the Lake Road, and then, if there's some Long Point kids that wanted to, get on the bus, maybe meet them at the green bins there, that's 3/4 of the way to their house. Then go to Williams and then kinda head back to town and whatever, works, and I just don't, I don't know how many kids we'd have. I mean, it's hard to tell, and I think it's maybe one of these things where you just gotta kinda get it going, and if it ends up fizzling out, it fizzles out and you tried and you did your best, or if we do a survey and figure out who's gonna do what, and I'm not a big believer in a lot of surveys. I'm just gonna put that out there right now.
No, but I think it would give you,
But it would give us some numbers, I guess.
the people who are interested,
They're gonna write the survey, yeah.
yeah.
And also figure out how many kids, figure out your.
I Tony and I did some math on, there's roughly 35, 40 kids that are in sports that live in the Williams, Long Point, basically have a Williams address.
A lot of kids out there.
And, not that all of them are gonna use our
And there's
activity
a lot of
bus, that we're
kids
just
out
kinda
there that aren't
going through the
in
names,
activities
and
yet.
more Tony than I, of the kids that
year or
live in that
two.
area that do sports between Long Point and, kind of the, Grayson's kind of edge of our spectrum, and just doing a loop like that, and I'm willing to try to make it work. If we can get some more kids in our sports and things like that, or even activities. It doesn't really have to be sports. I mean, Well, that's that, and I don't know where we wanna go from there, that's just kinda one of the things I got going on.
Did you throw out a dollar amount at all? What the extra expense would be?
Well, I was just thinking it was roughly about 35 miles there, and, you know, I did the miles in my head, and then our bus mileage is like, I think it's like $2 we pay about when it's all said and done per mile for bus maintenance and that sort of thing, so.
And you're probably talking a couple $100 in wages and fuel and wear and tear on a bus.
Right, so I'm thinking I'd get somebody to drive it for 2 hours, that'd be $20, $40 a night or a day for that, so roughly, you know, $200 a week, and then you gotta think you spend $100 in fuel. I mean, I haven't dialed it in real tight, but just some, you know, gassing and then a little bit of maintenance, but.
I just in support of this, I like, I think it's important to see who would use it currently, and I'm curious about who would join activities because it's there.
That's where
So I
I'm
think there's a
going.
potential question.
The potential thing is, there's kids that I know that their dad's like, no, I can't be running my kids back, you know, they just can't do it with their job and everything else, and, you know, I think we can help a few families out that maybe they would change their, you know, mind on their kid playing sports or being in an activity. You know, I think we'd start this activity bus probably when football starts in the summer. Maybe we do like a day activity bus, cause I just know cause all the kids I had babysitting my kids when I started working here were playing sports, and they're like in the afternoon, you know, like some are at 11, some are at 2, 3 o'clock, and start running an activity bus and just try to put a little less strain on parents and stuff for activities if we can.
Do you have somebody right now that would be interested in driving?
I do.
How soon would we be able to maybe get it going?
She said to give her a couple weeks. She's only licensed to drive an activity bus, the smaller mini bus, which is what I was thinking we should use anyways, with a little bit better fuel mileage on the mini bus, and
What's the capacity?
I think it's like 16, I think. Yeah. And I would, you know, I'd be like a 2-hour deal, I think, you know, because there may be nights where she's got to run to Williams twice, you know. Might not be nights. I don't know how it's gonna go. It just.
I think if you're gonna start it in the winter, or once you get to winter, the thing you're gonna run into is that the basketball schedules are quite varied in terms of when teams play, because they're moving gyms, and that is something I still have not wrapped my head around, what that gym schedule is, because it's all over the place. But having 2 runs would be helpful.
I was just kind of thinking in my head that I was looking at times and stuff, that we'd have to have 2 runs, so I figured we could start right at like 5:30 and she could make a run and then come back and pick up a second round of kids. And
Say, try and find out how many kids you're talking about first before.
well, like I said, there's roughly, you know, 35, 40 that are in sports that live out there.
Yeah, but like you said, how many are gonna use
Right.
it? How many already drive themselves or haven't all?
So I don't know if we do a survey and wait on that, or if we just get it going and see how it goes and pilot it for X amount of, you know, just set a time, like we're gonna pilot it for, you know, this much time, and we'll relook at it later, stuff like that.
It doesn't necessarily always have to be just the kids out for
Right.
It could be kids staying after school for tutoring.
Right, exactly, that's what I'm saying, any kind of activity that,
4-H activity.
yeah, it doesn't have to be sports, it doesn't have to be sports, it can be, any
Or like
activity,
even like, well, maybe drivers. that don't-
robotics,
never mind.
whatever
Drivers, that's
the
probably better.
activity is, you know,
What would be the age limit, you know, what
I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
elementary kids ride it?
Cause the elementary, they do their little clubs
of,
after school too. They have like
Yeah.
4-H and
And
some midgie.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea, just not
Yeah,
to be
but
a fan
I don't
of
know if
throwing like
that's
that at the
what they
wall and
really
see what
cater to.
sticks. Have some planning
Right.
with it and kind of come up with something. Figure out how many kids you need. I mean, if you end up consistently with 3 kids riding it, is it worth it?
And I know what you're saying, Boyd, but I just think that you're really never gonna get a number unless you just get the ball rolling. Just don't.
Yeah.
You know,
I think some schools, they'll have like a sign-up sheet.
Yeah.
maybe we start doing that. I mean,
I mean, there's a little bit of, we gotta keep track of these kids too, like who's gonna be there and
Right.
who's supposed to be on the bus and then not on the bus sort of stuff. So that's logistics.
And I'm willing to talk to other schools once we realize what we're gonna do. And say, hey, are you guys have an activity bus? How are you keeping track of your students? How are you, that sort of thing. I'm willing to put a little bit of legwork into contacting other supervisors that are in charge of this kind of thing and talking to them and saying, hey, what are you guys doing in this? What are you doing that? That's really the best way to get, talk to 3-4 different schools and then kind of get what fits us the best. Or we wanna go the survey route, then we'll get the ball rolling on the survey and, maybe we send it out to.
We send it to everyone.
Yeah, everyone.
Yeah, can't it be one of those like,
The
can it be a
one
text
thing,
message with
and the other reason why,
survey?
I mean, where do we go from there,
You could do that through school messenger.
A link to it, like you get the text
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Maybe
just
be
do
a
it.
very, very simple survey.
Yeah.
You could also ask, the other option that you'd thrown at me was potentially having a cost, $1 a ride, $2 a ride, it doesn't have to be a lot, but it does defray some of that cost potentially.
that's kinda what like the ball bus is. It's not really making money off it, just kinda like
$20 activity bus.
service.
Right, and then you can ride it all year.
Then you gotta figure out, so if you're dropping off at like the rain bins, what's the
That's a
policy
good
gonna
idea.
be if parents don't show up for an hour or something? There's a few moving parts you're gonna have to
Oh, I
kind
know.
of figure out for the whole thing.
It's not like you just go, but you gotta start somewhere,
Can we look at maybe just a cost before he spends a lot of time really delving into some of the finer details? Because how are we gonna pay for it? I think it's a great idea. I rode one when I was a kid, but I know they got rid of it because it was too expensive. Yeah, so,
Just a visual of it.
then the
but
other
just a
thing
quick
on my
back on
transportation
napkin.
end of it,
Yeah.
we've cut our routes. We went from
Get
11
it out of
routes,
Brad's
we're down to like
spreadsheet.
7, 8 routes now. So I think that was part of my thinking is if we're cutting routes, I think it will, we could be, I cut a route this year and we've got 2 last year, so it's 3 routes next year.
The driving force behind that was lack of bus drivers, wasn't it?
Right, well, that's my grade, that's why I say less buses I have, the less drivers I gotta have.
Go down to 7 now?
7 routes, then a special activity.
So it wasn't that long ago, we had 11 routes.
Yeah, we have 11.
So Brad is saying some of that cost savings.
Yeah, and I,
Right.
And that's something we
Yeah.
have to
But
budget.
still, if you're talking, from what he's saying real quick on the math, you're looking at $100 every time the bus makes a loop. And if you're talking 2 loops, now you're at $200 a night. Then,
$1,000 a
so
week.
now you're at 5 days a week, there's $1,000.
Well, that's the other thing, I don't know, does it have to be 5 nights a week? I'm not sure, Wednesdays there's really nothing going on.
That might not be.
That's where I think I agree with.
That's where a survey-
Come up with some planning and some numbers.
And I haven't.
It could be vague.
But this is just to get the ball rolling.
I think we all agree it's a good idea.
Yeah, if
Can
we
we
can do
afford
it
it?
if we can do it financially, I think it's an excellent idea. Because,
Well, and
To
even
me-
mentioned outside funding sources too.
right, and we certainly
just get
wanna
it going.
encourage the athletics, but as well, the tutoring and those kinds of things after school that could be a real advantage education-wise for the kids. I would say the biggest thing is to make sure that when the kids get dropped off, there's someone there to receive them when you're doing all the grades,
And we're kind of a geographically unique school district, with the school being kind of
Yeah.
out in
One
middle of
end.
nowhere.
Yeah.
Muscogee is one of the biggest districts as far as miles spent on buses. So it's
One thing I would add possibly, and this is, I'm just off memory, in Williams, we have the Williams Arena, so the winter months, it's only from 5 to 9. So if the activity bus wanted to drop, Williams gets off at the Williams Arena, there's always somebody there watching it.
You guys have a page.
we are not liable if that kid goes out the parking lot and wanders off. But I'm just saying, it might possibly be a drop point.
You know, it's a good idea.
Yeah, it is.
Someplace warm.
Warm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, that's right.
Ice
But
arena.
you gotta start
Yeah.
somewhere in this.
Yep, that's right.
Bring more business to the arena too.
Okay.
Also,
Bring your skates.
Start serving supper there.
buses, have you guys considered a fan bus going to certain, either volleyball, football, something like that?
My high
Had a
school
few
used to do
people
that.
talk about that.
East Grand Forks used to do
Sam's
that.
Fun
They'd have a
House.
pet, they call it a pet band. They'd have the pet band in there and anybody else who wanted to go with. So.
I know.
We used to
way
pay a
back
couple
when-
bucks. I thought you paid a couple bucks to ride it.
There'd be, I mean, the way it used to be when I was in high school is you signed up and if they had X number of people signing up and you paid, I don't know, $5, $10, whatever it was. If they had enough people who weren't sending a bus, they'd send a bus. They didn't, they'd cancel it. So it was kind of up to the kids. Right. I mean, if they wanted it, there it was. But
That may be a problem with getting somebody, you know, I have 7 full-time bus drivers, only one of them wants to drive
I
extracurricular.
suppose we're back to the bus driver.
Yeah, they all don't wanna, they don't wanna, which is weird because not too many years ago, when I was driving a bus, you used to kinda, there'd be a lineup of people to drive, but now it's.
I think that could be, well, if we have a bus driver and a bus, and we could do it for playoffs for volleyball, if we wanted to. With the enthusiasm that's showing up at those volleyball games, I think that's something that we could very feasibly try.
Well, and as a parent, you know, this child sometimes wants to ride with, you know, someone who's had their driver's license for 6 months. I'd rather send them in a bus.
I appreciate the idea, because that's, I mean, we could swing that this fall.
Yeah, it could be like, you know, I know like East Grand Forks, they would just do it like for playoffs or big games or, I don't think they went to every game, but, you know.
It was a game that had enough interest.
Right.
A big volleyball rivalry or anything, or if there happened to be one, but I don't know, this seems even possible.
Okay, anything else under the transportation?
Grew up in Morrow,
Yes.
I always thought those were ramps.
No, I got one driver down with a non-COVID.
War road's always a rival.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm learning the coordination end of the bus, which I kinda knew from the outside looking in, but I didn't really know. So I'm kinda just learning as I go there. It's going pretty good. I didn't have one phone call in the morning of the first day of school, so. I thought the phones maybe broke because everybody, oh, you'll have a bunch of phone calls. You'll have a bunch of phone calls, oh, you'll be missing kids, and I never had a phone call, so.
Must have did something.
Not that I haven't had it even, but I didn't on the first day. All my routes are, I did the, first week tweaking and having this bus pick these kids up, this one's got too many, and everything's up and going, and I did order, some backup cameras for our trip buses, because I was sick of getting out of the bus 7 times to hook up a trailer to the bus. And then Dale said he could do it twice, and I had him do it, he took 5 times, so I said, let's order them. That's about it, that's all I got.
Okay. Last on the agenda for the working session is food service.
We're doing okay, it's not the way we expected it to go the last time we met. We did not hire that gal, the insurance was a deal breaker for her family, so she didn't accept the job. But we're getting it done, we don't have the bear stand open though. That's the only really heartbreaking thing, is without the staff, we can't have the bear stand going.
Are they doing concessions through AAA?
AAA and the Booster Club are doing it.
And not in the den?
No.
Okay, yeah.
No, just like pizza and popcorn and candy and water and pop.
We've put out, because it's a toll on the AAA group to do that every time, and realistically, they will not be able to pull it off for every game this winter. I mean, fall is feasible, but
Not with the same, like, 5 people doing it every time.
Right.
It's like-
So we've opened it up to other school groups to say if they want to take it on as a fundraiser, they can sign up. Have not had many, couple bites on that, but not a ton. So it's, we'll see how this goes here in the next, for the winter season especially. I think the basketball schedule is gonna be a hard one to fill, so.
Which is unfortunate, because I think that our school concession stand is known to be one of, it's definitely one of, I mean, I go to a lot of schools. It's known to be one of the better ones, so it's too bad. But it just is the way it is at the moment.
Looking for full-time help and keep getting breakfast and lunch out, that's all.
There's one item that's listed on here, Jackie, about the emergency operating cost reimbursement program.
That was Cece's.
Oh, okay.
We got some money, I think, like $1,600.
Did I miss it? Is it at the back?
It's the very last.
Did you see that, Crystal? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you're gonna give that to the kitchen or no? Is it going right to the general fund?
Okay.
That won't, no. Oh, it said it could.
I think
I saw it and I was just waiting for someone to explain it to me, to be honest.
it actually gave me the correct finance code too. I'm sure that one did.
It wasn't a lot of money.
No.
It did. It's right on the.
Yeah, it says $1,689.
Okay.
Better than nothing.
Okay. Anything else for food service? Otherwise, yeah. Okay then. Well, Jeff, are we just ready to move on into the regular board meeting? Okay. All right, we will call the meeting to order at 7:08. Stand for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda is to approve the agenda. We have a motion and a second.
Motion by Johnson.
Second by Lyon.
Motion by Johnson, second by Lyon to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion?
Any changes? I didn't see anything in there.
What,
Was there? Was
Jeff
there?
wanted to add hiring or something, right? What's that?
No, I think I verbally got direction to go ahead. I think the only thing would be the removal under old business item B. Approval of tiered level implementation of health and safety procedures, because we're not changing our tier. We approved this at the moderate level, so that nothing has changed, so it just
Doesn't need a motion.
doesn't need a motion for that. And I'm not sure if that's in the crib sheets here. So the crib sheets act.
Okay, good, okay. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign if you're against, whatever I'm trying to say, and motion passes. Okay, next up is the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes, approval of invoices and statements, approval of personnel, resignations, retirements, and appointments, under which we have resignations for Crystal Landine, Business Manager, HR Specialist, and appointments. We have Michelle Delvecchio, Paraprofessional, Carrie Johnson, Assistant Cook, Danny, and I always, Kachak? Kostek? I should know, but I'm always struggle. As Administrative Assistant and Finance Clerk, Diane Carlos as full-time teacher. And then leave request is listed, but there's nothing under that. Okay. So do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Robita will second.
Motion by Ella, second by Robita to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Board presenters, I have that we have none. Written communications, I have that we have none. Under old business, we have an item to approve updates and revisions to the district's safe in-person learning plan as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Second by Lyon.
Motion by Ellis, second by Lyon to approve updates and revisions to the district's safe in-person learning plan. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Under new business, we have to approve the contract with SMS for business management and payroll support services. Do we have a motion and a second?
Motion by Johnson.
Second by Robita.
Motion by Johnson, second by Robita, to approve the contract with SMS for business management and payroll services. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next is the approval of the snow removal contract with Jack Olson and Kevin Olson for 2021. Is that supposed to be 2022 or 3? It is a 2-year, okay.
Is that who we've had before?
Yes. Do we have a motion and a second?
Motion by Johnson.
Second by Lyon.
Motion by Johnson, second by Lyon to approve the snow removal contract with Jack and Kevin Olson for the next 2 years. Any further discussion?
Is that with their own equipment?
I think it's
No,
the
they
school
use our
equipment.
schools. Okay, that's right.
They're an hourly, correct me if I'm wrong, or said they're an hourly wage rate, and they use the school's equipment.
21 an hour, and then goes up $1.89 or something the next year.
I think there's been one exception where our equipment was
Failed or something.
wasn't comparable.
Yeah. I think I need to work on the county agreement.
Okay, any additional discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next is the, a motion and a second needed to adopt resolution 2021-2022-006 for $500 from North Star Electric's Operation Roundup Fund for Sarah Pearson's classroom and hands-on learning supplies.
Motion by Lyon.
Second by Robita.
Motion by Lyon and second by Robita. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes, and a thank you to North Star Electric's Operation Roundup. Next is Resolution 2021-2022-007 to accept a $272 donation from Wabonica Lutheran Church's Wood-Fired Pizza Night for the Backpack Program. Motion and a second.
Make that motion.
I'll
Motion by
second.
Johnson.
Motion by Trask, second by Johnson, to accept the Wabonica Lutheran Church donation. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next is Resolution 2021-2022-008 to accept a donation from Brian and Amy Potts for the Special Olympics in memory of Nicholas Del Vecchio.
Motion by Johnson.
Second by Lyon.
Motion by Johnson, second by Lyon, to accept the donation from Brian and Amy Potts. Any discussion?
How does that apply? For the Special Olympics, and why wouldn't they donate it to them? Why is, are we?
Well, we have a Special Olympics program. at the school,
Oh,
correct?
to our special?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Mm-hmm,
very good. I didn't realize that.
yes, sorry. So that was discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. Motion passes, and so thank you to Brian and Amy Potts for that donation, as well as I skipped thanking the Wabonica Lutheran Church for their donation as well. I did say that one. Next is Resolution 2021-2022-009 to accept a donation of $500 from the Williams Youth Recreation Association for the Ticket to Read program. Motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
Second by Lyon. There's that Recreation Association.
Yes, there you go, Brad. So motion by Ellis, second by Lyon, to accept the $500 donation from Williams Youth Recreation Association. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
I abstain.
And Robita abstains.
I'm the president of
Yes.
that association.
I forget
so-
about that.
Yes.
Okay, and
So
with
that's why she knew the name.
Yes.
Yeah, now it's,
Yes.
Motion
It's linking
passes
up.
with an abstain from Robita. So then lastly, we have Resolution 2021-2022-10 to adopt the resolution for certifying the proposed tax levy for 2021 payable in 2022.
I'll make that motion.
Second by Johnson.
Motion by Ellis, second by Johnson, to adopt the resolution certifying the proposed tax levy. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, or all opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. And did I thank the Williams Youth Recreation Association? Did I say that? Officially, thank you.
You can just say WYRA. There you go.
I would have to think too much about what those letters stand for. It's probably just easier to read it. So, okay, any other business? Then we will move to the closed session. To move to the closed session?
oh, to close the meeting, yeah.
Okay, motion to close the meeting
Second by Lyon.
and vote, or just a motion?
Oh, we have to vote.
And vote on it, okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. Closed session.
Thanks for coming. How do you guys make your money? $500,